Hey, it's Matthew Donegan-Ryan, and welcome to the ultimate Tesla CyberTruck video. Last week, I attended Tesla's Investor Day, and before and after the actual presentation, there was an executive meet and greet where you got to meet a lot of the high-ranking officials at Tesla and ask them a ton of questions about their vehicles. And I was able to learn a ton about the Cybertruck that I'm going to share today. This will include the dimensions, specs, the various variants of the vehicle, info about the tires, the 48-volt architecture, some options, my thoughts on the pricing based on feedback I got, as well as there's actually a secret internal Tesla Cybertruck accessories team. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Before I dive in, I just wanted to address in the online community, there's quite a lot of Cybertruck detractors who say that the Cybertruck won't be adopted by truck guys or truck people. It's not for those type of people. So I don't really know what they mean by a truck guy or truck person, but to me, a truck guy is, a guy who buys a truck. Personally, I've owned 6 F-150s, including a handful of Raptors. I worked at a Ford dealership from my senior year of high school until I graduated from college. So I'm extremely familiar with Ford F-150s and Raptors. And as Ford F-150 is the best-selling vehicle, as well as obviously the best-selling truck in the U.S., I think this is the market that Tesla is targeting. During my truck ownership, I've spent a lot of time, driving on snow, mud, dirt and gravel roads on the way to go hiking or camping. I've towed my boat, Sea-Doos, and other trailers. But like most truck owners, my truck is primarily used for driving around town and going on Costco runs. And this is what most excites me about the Cybertruck. It's going to have the capabilities matching or exceeding a 3/4 ton truck like an F-250, but it's going to be as compact as an F-150, and it's going to handle like a sporty SUV similar to a Model X, and it will likely be faster, 0 to 60 than a Porsche 911. So let's get started. So regarding the vehicle I actually saw on display at Investor Day was a Cybertruck pre-production beta. This means if the truck was for sale today, it would look just like this. So once this pre-production beta has been tested and close to finalized, Tesla will move on to what's called a release candidate, where they'll that's to finalize all the production methodology and make sure the vehicle is ready for full-scale production. But keep in mind, Tesla's never pencils down. So everything I tell you today, this is what's accurate as of the pre-production beta. It will absolutely change by the time the release candidates come out and then finally the production units. So let's start with the dimensions. This is one of the most popular questions that I got on Twitter when I was soliciting questions about the about the Cybertruck. So what are the dimensions? Well, it's I'm comparing it to an F-150 Raptor. Again, that's a truck that I have, and I think that's the market that Tesla is targeting. So it's about 1.5 inches shorter than a Raptor, and it's about 2.5 inches narrower than a Raptor. However, because it doesn't have a big V8 or a turbo V6 engine in the front, the hood is shorter, meaning there's more usable space. So even though the Cybertruck is about 1.5 inches shorter than the Raptor, it actually has a 6-inch longer bed thanks to that shorter hood. I'm putting the dimensions on the screen here. I believe these dimensions are accurate, but I'm giving myself about a 2-inch leeway as I had to, stitch multiple images together to, calculate the total measurements or the overall measurements. So let's go through them. So the wheelbase, it's about the same wheelbase as a Raptor. The overall length, I believe it's about 231 inches, so slightly shorter, 1.5 inches or so shorter than a Raptor. The width without the mirrors is 84 inches, whereas the Raptor is about 86.5 inches. Keep in mind if a truck or a vehicle is wider than 80 inches, the vehicle has to have amber marker lights in the front and red marker lights in the rear showing it's wider. So I'll talk about that later. The overall height, Raptor is about 80 inches. The Cybertruck that was on the floor, it seemed a little shorter than that. But remember, the Cybertruck has air suspension. So I imagine the Cybertruck on display was kind of in its mid-height level. We have seen videos at max height as well as lower height. So I imagine the truck can be taller, or the Cybertruck will be taller or lower than that depending on the setting. Great thing about air suspension, if you need that extra clearance for driving off-road, you have that option. But when you're cruising at 60 or 70 miles an hour on the freeway and you want to maximize efficiency, you can lower the truck down as low as possible. It also makes it easy for getting in and out of the vehicle, as well as loading up cargo into the frunk or the bed of the truck. Speaking of the bed, really cool thing about the Cybertruck, as I mentioned, it's 6 inches longer than the bed of an F-150 Raptor Super Crew. The F-150 Super Crew, that's the most popular ordered configuration for an F-150. So it means it's got 4 full-size doors and about a 5.5-foot bed. That's how most buyers are actually ordering their trucks. So the Cybertruck has around the same size cabin, again, 6 inches longer bed. The width is about the same. It's just over 4 feet wide, which allows you to put in sheetrock or plywood into the bed of your truck. The rear opening is a little wider on the F-150. On the on the Cybertruck, it's 57 inches wide. One thing about the bed is, in a traditional truck like an F-150, when you go past the wheel housing, there is more space to put stuff, whereas in the Cybertruck there is not, and I'll get to the reasons why later, which is actually very cool. So when I was talking to the staff, about the dimensions, essentially what they said is in 2019, when they unveiled the prototype, it was a bigger vehicle. They had to shrink everything by about 5%, all dimensions by about 5%, so that the vehicle will fit in most garages in America, and just be a little easier to navigate. So let's move on. So another question I got was about the frunk. So the hood on the Cybertruck, it opens like a Model X, and I imagine it will have a similar size frunk inside. We didn't see it, but that's what I imagine. The front kind of bumper grill area does not open along with the hood like an F-150 Lightning, which is, I think, the only thing that I prefer about the Lightning over the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck will have two variants. One, the base will be a dual motor, and the higher end, I'm going to call the Performance. I don't know what it will actually be called, but I'll call it the Performance. So initially, Tesla, and when Tesla unveiled the Cybertruck, they said the top trim would be a tri-motor. But then in December of 2021, Elon said the initial variant would actually be a quad motor. So after discussing this with staff, they didn't exactly tell me, but they kind of pushed back and said, don't be too sure it's going to be a quad motor. So I got the feeling that it's actually going to be a tri-motor like the initial plans. So I think it will have the same powertrain or similar powertrain as the Model S and the Model X Plaid, which has one efficiency motor in the front as well as 2 motors in the rear. So that's what I'm predicting will be released for the Cybertruck. Also, there'll be no single motor, 2-wheel drive version of the Cybertruck, at least, for the first while. Next, all variants of the Cybertruck will have rear wheel steering as standard. So this is very welcome news. The componentry for the rear wheel steering is actually between the wheelhouse that you see in the bed of the truck and the cab. So that's why there's no open space, beyond the wheel housing like you see, in an F-150 or a regular truck. Also, there does not appear to be any storage compartments in the sails anymore. So the staff wouldn't comment on this, but I believe the storage compartments are gone, and they're just using that space for the componentry for the rear wheel steering. Again, talking about the size of the vehicle, all Cybertruck variants will have 5 seats. So the 6 seats that you saw during the unveiling, and I believe on the Cybertruck, on tesla.com/Cybertruck, it still says there are 6 seats. However, I was told directly it will have 5 seats, again, due to it being 5% smaller than the prototype. The Cybertruck will have Tesla's biggest display ever at 18.5 inches. So the Model S and the Model X have 17-inch displays, but the Cybertruck will be a little bigger. Staff did confirm to me there is going to be no gauge cluster or center display, as well as there's going to be no heads-up display. The second row console will have a screen like in the Model S and the Model X. So those of you who have kids, I think will really love this feature. Next, the CyberTruck steering wheel is going to be round at the sides, and we'll have a flat top and bottom. So flat top and bottom, round at the sides. So it's kind of a combination of a standard round steering wheel and the yoke that you see in the Model S and the Model X, as well as the yoke that was on the CyberTruck during the unveiling. I can tell you I do own multiple Teslas, including a Model X that has the yoke steering wheel, and I love it. Much prefer it to the round wheel. So if you're ordering an S or an X, I highly recommend you choose the yoke option. Moving on, the CyberTruck windshield light bar is going to make it into production, and it will contain amber lights, the wide width lights like the Tesla Semi. So if you look at a Tesla Semi with the amber lights at the top, I'm pretty confident that is how Tesla is going to denote that this vehicle is wider than the standard 80 inches. Next, let's talk about the CyberTruck suspension. So all Cybertrucks, as standard, will have air suspension. Staff have told me they have tested this for Baja-style terrain racing. As someone who's owned a Raptor, Raptors have really beefy off-road suspensions with very strong shocks and springs, and that allows the truck to kind of be jumped a little bit. When you do jump a truck like a Raptor, the suspension wears out very quickly. You're probably going to have to replace your shocks and your suspension every 10,000 miles or so. If you're just driving it around town, like most people are driving on dirt and gravel roads, the suspension on something like a Raptor should last about 100,000 miles when you have to replace it. And so I was asking the staff about this. If you're doing Baja style racing, are you going to have a version of the CyberTruck that does not have air suspension? Because how are those cylinders going to stand the pressure, the force when you jump a truck and land it? That's going to exert a huge amount of force on those cylinders. And I was told very directly that they have tested it. They have tested the air suspension, and they are confident it can handle Baja style racing. So that was very exciting to hear. I did meet Sandy Monroe while I was standing on front of the Cybertruck, and he told me the air suspension cylinders are the biggest he's ever seen. He said he's seen very large ones on a Ram truck, but these air suspension cylinders are actually larger. Moving on to the wheels and tires. So just like all Teslas, there will be multiple wheel and tire packages for the Cybertruck. Staff did confirm to me that all the wheels will be 18 inches, and there's going to at least be an all-terrain option, which is the main tires that you see on the production beta that was on display, as well as there will be an all-season, standard all-season tire, like we've seen in a couple of videos. The tire size is a 285/65 R18, which translates to a 35-inch by 11.25-inch 18-inch tire. So, if you're the kind of person who drives in mud or snow, you're probably going to want the all-terrain tires, or if you just like the look of them. Personally, I will definitely be ordering mine with all-terrain tires. If you have a longer commute, you want a more comfortable or quieter ride, definitely recommend the all-season tires. They're going to be about the same size. They're just not going to look quite as beefy, but like I said, they'll be quieter and they will get better range and probably be a little bit more comfortable as well. So Goodyear is the manufacturer of the all-terrain tires. So these are custom tires. So Goodyear is manufacturing them. I would say you can budget about $385 each per tire. I'm getting that price because that's what Goodyear currently charge for their all-terrain, Wrangler Duratec tire in the same size configuration. So, probably just a hair under $400 a tire, which, if you're a Raptor owner like me, who's, had to change their tires every, 30, 40,000 miles, you're used to paying this price. If this is your first, all-terrain tire purchase, you probably are going to think it's an expensive tire, but this is just the going rate for tires of this quality. Next, the Cybertruck doors are not self-presenting like in the Model X. So, if you walk up to your Model X, the front door will open all the way for you. Obviously, the Falcon Wing doors open as well, and you can control it on either your app on your phone or if you have a key fob. That is not the case with the Cybertruck. So the Cybertruck on the B pillar there is a button for the front door, and on the C-pillar, there's a button for the rear door. You push that button and it pops out. I imagine if you have your phone in your pocket or use a key fob and you walk up, the door will pop out for you, but it's only going to pop out a couple inches. Then you have to open the door and close it. So as a Model X owner, I can tell you that's a feature I really wish was in the Cybertruck. So maybe that will come in the future. I did ask, several executives about pricing of the Cybertruck. I would say things like, there's millions of people in line to buy the Cybertruck. Surely this will be more expensive than a loaded Model X. And I was told, don't be too sure about that. So when the Model X when the Cybertruck was unveiled, the pricing was a little bit lower. The top line Cybertruck was a little bit lower than a base Model X. And so Tesla might still be trying to, price the Cybertruck in that range. If they do, obviously it would be great for consumers like you and me who want to buy the truck, but it'll also create a huge, resale market. So if you look at the prices of a Model S and a Model X now, the Model S starts at like $90K. The Model X is at $100K, with the plaid versions of both of those vehicles costing $110K. So that's the price of Tesla's current lineup. If we do compare that to a Ford Raptor, which is, basically a top line truck that the Cybertruck will be competing with, the V6 supercharged Raptor starts at around $80K once you add a couple options, and the Raptor R is around $111K. So I think the Cybertruck will fall into that range. It's possible that Tesla tried to get the Cybertruck price to fall below $80,000. Here in the U.S., which is the initial market for the Cybertruck, we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which offers a $7,500 EV rebate for trucks that are priced less than $80,000. So, maybe Tesla will release the Cybertruck at $79,000, or maybe they release the dual motor version at, that price, and then the performance version is, in the 90 or 100K range. But it is hard to say. But my prediction is the Cybertruck will be priced somewhere between the $90,000 and $100,000 price. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's as low as $79,000 or as high as $110,000. But I wouldn't imagine it's going to be outside of that range. One more thing I'll mention about price is, I went on the Ford F-150 configurator today and I was pricing out various Raptors. And like with a lot of legacy vehicles, you can add a ton of options, and that starts adding to the price. And you can get the price up there very significantly, very quickly. Things like a moonroof isn't even a standard feature on an F-150, whereas of course on every single Tesla comes with a glass roof, and so will the Cybertruck. So I love with Teslas, they come basically fully loaded, and you can choose a wheel and tire package, or you can add FSD. But almost everything else is a standard feature, which is something I really like about Tesla as a consumer. And I also like it as a shareholder because it means less configurations. It's simpler, fewer part variations. It's better for scaling a vehicle. So let's move on from price. The next thing I want to talk about is the 48-volt architecture. So if you watch the Investor Day presentation, you heard that the Cybertruck will be Tesla's first vehicle to use a 48-volt architecture, and new vehicles going forward will also be built on the 48-volt architecture. This is super exciting news. It means, you'll have higher gauge wiring, which is lighter and cheaper. You'll have a smaller accessories battery, and you'll have more power. So Tesla's wanted to do this for a while. Sandy Munro talked about, many manufacturers have talked about doing this for 20, 30 years. However, with legacy vehicles, they use so many off-the-shelf parts from multiple suppliers, and basically everyone in the industry would have to switch all their vehicles and all their accessories at the same time in order to make the switch. And that's why your legacy OEMs have not and almost cannot make the switch to a 48-volt architecture. But since Tesla's so vertically integrated, they can make that switch. So when I was talking to Tesla staff, I said, well, if it's 48-volt architecture, a lot of truck buyers like me like to put, off-road lights or winches on their trucks. So are you working with the aftermarket company? So they're building, 48-volt compatible accessories. And I was told very directly, no, there is a secret Cybertruck accessories team. So this is breaking news. There's a secret Cybertruck accessories team, and they are working on their own accessories. So this will include things like a winch, like off-road lights, as well as other non-powered products like steel bumpers and camping, add-on camping equipment and bike racks and things like that. So this is super exciting. This gem kind of struck me as a move that Apple would make. Apple of course make products like the iPhone and the Apple Watch, and the margin on those products is really good. But where they have even better margins is when they sell you a $59 iPhone case or a $99 braided loop watch band. The cost on those products is dollars or maybe even pennies, and they're selling them for huge markups. So as a Tesla shareholder, we can look forward to that. As a Tesla consumer, when I buy a winch from Warren and I have to hardwire it to my F-150, takes a lot of time. Just a little tedious to make sure you get it just right. You have to have, extra tools to be able to, wire it. I imagine a lot of the Tesla accessories will be plug and play. So there'll be, things that consumers can install without having any kind of, expertise or electrical knowledge. So I'm very, very excited for that. Kind of adding on to that, the bumpers of the Cybertruck during the unveil, those were stainless steel bumpers. And there's a lot of, people online complaining, oh, those will never be legal. They won't be compliant. Well, you're right. So the bumpers and the side skirts that are on the Tesla production beta, which will be on the release, they are plastic. So they're black cladding or black plastic. They are 5 mile per hour, impact compliant bumpers. Again, they're not steel like the prototype. But again, I asked Tesla staff, if it will be easy enough for owners like me to remove the plastic bumper and put on an aftermarket steel bumper. And I was told, yeah, you won't have to go aftermarket. That is very likely something Tesla will offer directly. Finally, I asked this, one of the staff members who's been working on the Cybertruck for 3 years. I said, considering, there's a lot of really cool trucks on the market, the Rivian, the Hummer EV, the Lightning, the Raptor, like what's one feature that on one of those vehicles that you wished was on the Cybertruck? And the response was nothing. We've benchmarked all of those trucks, and there's nothing on there that this person wanted on the Cybertruck. Like everything is there. I'm going to jump into the questions in a moment. I'll just mention that if you do have more questions for me, please do ask them in the comments or ask them to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @MatthewDR. So post any questions there, and I will answer those. So I'm going to jump. I did solicit questions on. I did solicit questions on Twitter, so I'm gonna open or go through those as well. We'll encourage you, please do subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. I will be releasing other videos in the future. So first question, something a bunch of people asked me, what will the weight of the Cybertruck be? So I did ask staff about the weight. They didn't tell me an exact number, but again, they kind of told me to be pleasantly surprised at the weight of the vehicle. I'd asked things like, the Hummer EV weighs 9,000 pounds and the Rivian weighs, 7,000 pounds. And, I think a Plaid Model X weighs like, 5,400 pounds or so. And even, Raptor, V8 Raptor weighs like 6,000 pounds. So the Cybertruck, I've been told it's not going to be it's not going to be the heaviest truck. So it's going to be quite a bit lighter than the Hummer EV, which I'm not surprised at. The Hummer has like a 212 kilowatt hour pack. The Rivian has a 135 kilowatt hour pack. So I would imagine the Cybertruck will be somewhere close to weight as the Rivian. I don't think it's going to be extremely heavy. Obviously 7,000 pounds is still a massive weight, but I imagine the weight will probably come in somewhere between the 6,500 and 7,500 pounds. What that means is the pack will probably be, somewhere in the 125 to 150 kilowatt hour pack. I don't think it's going to have a 200 kilowatt hour pack like the Hummer EV, which also makes me think the range of the Cybertruck will be less than the 500 miles that was announced during unveiling. I think if you're using the Cybertruck as your daily driver, you don't need a 500 mile range. I have a 340 or something mile range on my Model X, and a 300 I think 10 mile range on my Model Y, and that's plenty of range. The reason you want a bigger pack is for towing. So if we assume you tow a decent sized trailer, your range is going to be cut in half. If the range goes from 300 miles down to 150 miles, that's going to be pretty rough if you're making a long trip towing a trailer. So maybe there will be a 200 kilowatt hour pack that will have a 500 mile range, or even more. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's not in the initial release of the Cybertruck. All right, next question. So Cyberdog asks, what do you think is a hidden feature Franz mentioned that he's excited for, which hasn't been talked about yet on the Cybertruck? So I believe that's the 48 volt architecture being kind of 48 volt architecture, which means Tesla's going to be making their own accessories, or which is kind of why Tesla is making their own accessories. So I think that's what it is. Of course, I could be surprised. I'm sure there's a ton of things about the Cybertruck that they didn't tell me, but that was kind of my impression. Is Franz is a designer, right? He likes to design beautiful things. He probably doesn't have as much flexibility as he might like, because Tesla tries to make everything as simple and scalable as possible. So I think the accessories is probably something Franz was like really involved with. So I think that's what he was potentially talking about. Question: what is the rear visibility like on the Cybertruck when the cover is on, or the bed cover is on? Does it rely on camera, display rear view mirror, or a direct view? Same questions about the side mirrors, since Elon keeps saying they're easily removable. So there is a mirror. I don't think it is a display. There are some vehicles that have a mirror that's also a digital display. I think it's just a regular mirror, which is a legal requirement. The side view mirrors are supposedly removable. I didn't see, how they are removed. But there's definitely no screens kind of inside where, if you look at the side mirror, there's no extra screen there. So you would have to use the center display to look, to look at the, at the cameras for the side view. I can tell you, I'll be driving my truck mostly around town. I'll leave the mirrors on. If I'm on a road trip and I need that extra, whatever it is, 5% efficiency, maybe then I might remove the mirrors, or at least fold them in. But I'll be keeping my mirrors on for the most part. Tesla in Vernon asks, does the Cybertruck that you saw have 120 volt power outlets? I didn't notice them, but I imagine they would. It doesn't seem like a hard thing to include. I also think they'll probably have a 240 volt outlet like was announced during the unveiling, but that was not confirmed to me. John Corcoran asks, will the Cybertruck really have 6 seats? No, the Cybertruck will have 5 seats, and there will be no 6-seat option. Richard Shiro asked, the Lightning has set the bar for things like onboard power and huge frunk, and the Rivian has onboard air outlet. Is the Cybertruck going to have these features? I did not get any confirmation on the air compressor. I wouldn't be surprised if it's there, but I got no information about that. But I think there will be plenty of onboard power options. Ginger Bin asks, how tall are you? I'm 6 foot. Are the Cybertruck specs true or different to reveal specs? So they are different. Will FSD work on Cybertruck from delivery? I would be shocked if it doesn't. I would be very, very surprised if it doesn't work from start. I mean, when you buy a new Tesla, it takes, a dozen miles or so for the cameras to configure or calibrate before FSD or AP will work. I imagine it will be the same. Expected price and production of the Cybertruck and Semi. Well, already went over the Cybertruck. You can check out my Semi video for information on the Semi. Will it be sold in Germany or Europe in general? Do you know something about that? Because in Germany, we have a lot of regulations regarding stiffness of the front in case of an accident. I fear the Cybertruck would consume too little energy of a crash to be allowed here. Yeah, there's from what I hear, there's absolutely no plans to bring the Cybertruck to Europe in the first year or two of production. There's basically going to be unlimited demand for it in the U.S. market. There's no real reason to bring it to Europe. I can tell you, I was in Ireland last summer for a wedding, and I rented a Model S, and it's tight driving in a lot of places in Europe. A lot of parking lots are very tight. When I picked up the car, and I rented it from UFO Drive, so shout out to those guys. It was a great company. The Model S, every single rim was badly curbed, just because the roads are narrower. So yeah, Cybertruck driving in Europe definitely won't be the easiest thing in a lot of those very old cities. Robin Taylor asks, it looks like the lid on the front and the front panel are one piece, like the Lightning. No, it's two pieces. So it doesn't open with both the the front grille and the hood. It's just the hood that opens. Great. Well, I think that's all the questions. I will read every single comment and respond to all of those, as well as respond to comments on Twitter. So again, ask me your comments online. My Twitter is @MatthewDR. Please do subscribe to hear my next video about Tesla, as well as check out my videos on the Tesla Semi, my video about my discussion with Tom Zhu, and also I'm going to link to an interview with Herbert Ong, who's going to be interviewing me here in the next day or two, and so I'll put a link to that in the description when that goes live. Thanks so much. Bye.